Hi there everyone, my name is Dillon Tool and this is my oral presentation for my second paper in this class of Writing 1200. To start it off, I'm going to talk about paper 1 to catch you up to speed. To start with, the focus of paper 1 was to research the topic of negative effects that divorce can have on children and if there are any. This is an important topic to me because I myself am a child of divorced parents. The divorce was not necessarily hard on me, but I did have friends who went through it and it was a lot harder on them. Some of them didn't even graduate with me because it had such a negative effect of parents moving and fighting. So this topic is very near and dear to me. That's why I chose it. So when going through the topic, I had to find out how am I going to research it, and that was kind of hard, and I learned a lot about it because there are scientists and researchers that have found that different variables can play different effects, such as the age of the child, the gender of the child, are there multiple children, are there a lot of marital issues such as fighting and yelling, have the cops been involved, and just other variables that can sway it to yes, there are negative effects, or no, there are no negative effects. So there was one paper that I used that was very interesting to me. A group of scientists came together and they wanted to find out the same thing I did, if there were negative effects. So what they did was they watched a group of first graders that had divorced parents, and they watched them go through their school year. But not just first grade, their whole scholastic career. They watched them go first grade, second grade, and so on to graduation if students made it that far. And they gathered all this data from them, but they needed something to compare it to. So they used the classmates of those students that were with them, of students whose parents stayed together. They also recorded their data from first grade, second grade, on to if they graduated. And once all their data was compiled and put together, they put the two in graphs and compared them, and what they found was there was a significant difference in students who had divorced parents to those who did not, and it was a negative effect. And these were their students' test scores, attendance records, and different academic tests that they had them take throughout to see their progression. And they saw that there was this giant gap from first grade. Students would normally be right here, but those of divorced parents would be down here, and it was just a continuous pattern. They were learning and they were staying together at this rate going through, and they did not see a change until they got to high school. There was a giant spike in both groups. However, the spike was greater in those of divorced parents, and their conclusion to that was those students felt that in high school they were starting to become their own person, they could start making their own choices, and they start feeling better about themselves. And these were just their average test scores. Not every child of divorced parent was below average or was below the other classmates, just the average. So there were some that were not affected, there were some that even did greater. But those are just outliers compared to the number of students that they examined. There was, like I said, the scholastic effect, but there was also on an emotional and participational level. Students didn't want to participate, they didn't always do homework, and sometimes didn't even show up to school. When they got into middle school and high school, they felt like they didn't want to participate in after-school activities or clubs because they didn't want to get hurt. So that was all of paper 1. I did conclude that yes, there is a negative effect that divorce has on children. Not always, but generally there is going to be a negative effect. So with a problem comes a solution, and I was trying to come up with a solution. So thinking hard and doing some research, I came up with incorporating this in with the schools. They recorded this data in school, so why not have someone at the school to help them? If you didn't know, more than 51% of marriages end in more than 50% of marriages end in divorce. It is somewhere around 51%. But back to the council, that just shows you if you lined up students where, if you lined up 100 students, every other 150 of them are going to be from a divorced family. So my solution, like I said earlier, was to have counselors in the schools to be able to talk to the students, to see how their day was, how the divorce was, how their parents were. Someone that they can talk freely with. They'll be there for the students whenever they need them. And I thought this was an awesome solution. This is going to solve the problem. But then there were also some people that didn't think so. They thought, just let it be. They felt like if a student's at school, they need to just do schoolwork. That's all they need to do. They just need to learn, read, write, math, all that stuff that they normally do in school. And there were also some skeptics that believed that they didn't want them to take time out of class to talk to counselors. They can do that in their free time if they believed it. I myself never had the pleasure of being able to talk to someone about the divorce that my parents went through and seeing the results that it can have. I really wish I did. Kids love to talk. Kids love to get things off their chest. And they like to speak freely when they feel like they can. And that's the almost definition of what a counselor is there for. To start off, for the people that say that counselors shouldn't be in schools because they need to learn, well, a student cannot learn unless they feel safe. And there's Maslow's triangle of hierarchy. For those of you that don't know it, it's 5 different levels. It's a pyramid, and they start at the bottom and work their way up. So at the bottom is basic needs, food, clothing, hygiene, shelter. That's kind of more on the parents, but the school can help out with that. The second step up is safety. Now, that's a big one where counselors can come in. They want the students to feel safe at school. They want to feel safe in the room. Like, you can talk to me. I'm here just for you. I'm here to listen. I want to know your problems, and I want to be able to help them. That goes along with the third step of love and belonging. They want the students to feel loved. They want them to feel like they belong at school, that they can belong. They can belong in groups and sports and just be a part of the school community. The next level up, the 4th level, is self-esteem. Everybody needs good self-esteem. When you wake up, you want to feel good. You want to go to school. And that's where the counselors can help out, hyping them up. You know what? You look awesome today. Good job on your test. Self-esteem boosts them up. And then the top is self-actualization. That's when the student finally feels safe in school, safe when talking to their counselor, that they can come together and say, you know what, let's meet with your parents and talk about it. And I feel that when you bring all that together, then a student will feel safe in school, and then they will learn. This pyramid, it's been around for a long time. Many people believe in it. I know I do. I've learned about it since middle school, and it's a big part of me. So, there are those that believe that children will always want to talk to the counselor, that they'll take time out of their day and skip classes. Sometimes a child just does need to talk it out. They need to talk with someone. And for those people that believe they're going to abuse it, a counselor can say, you know what, you need to go to class today. I just talked with you yesterday. Excuse me. But there are those that do need to talk it out a lot. The biggest thing is just making sure that there's always appointments, that the student knows that they're safe, that they know that there's always the counselor there to talk to them, and that, and I say that the student needs to talk to the counselors a lot, and they're like, well, what are they going to talk about? This is talking about the student's day at home, their day at school, how it went when they got home, how it goes at night, on the weekends, how their family life is, because some families in a divorce can get abusive, and schools need to know about that. These all can have negative side effects on how a child grows up and even into their future families. And so, even beyond. So, all that kind of matters. Once the counselor asks these questions, they'll schedule another appointment for them to let them know. there are people who believe that all of this is nonsense. You know, they grew up with divorced parents, so they feel like they're going to turn out just fine. But, you know, we're in the year 2015, coming up on 16, and it's a different time than it was 10, 15, 30 years ago. You know, there's social media, there's a lot more debt, money's a big thing, and that's what a lot of families fight about. You know, these children are the future, and there needs to be resources to help these children further their future so they can become what they want to be and help this world go on. And I believe that having counselors at schools to help you know, combat the negative effects that divorce can have on these children will be a major help to them in their future.